Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm back in my Laker mode, and I wanted to say something about LeBron James's doubtful status for tomorrow's game. Another statement, rather. I like that he did that for a different reason, and it's one of the reasons that I mentioned on this camera about, say, a week ago, and that's in regards to not letting the opponent know what to prepare for. You know, I've spoken on this. We gotta continue to reconsider what misdirection, or rather not misdirection, that's the wrong way of putting it, but giving guys so much to consider in regards to preparing for the Los Angeles Lakers, or whatever team your team is, if you happen to be watching me from a different point of view. But you just want to keep people guessing about what you're trying to do. At the end of the day, you don't need people knowing exactly what players are going to be on the floor, especially when they're as important as LeBron James. Maybe it's just because of my mindset, but I think the way that it used to be in regards to having a starting lineup being understood and matchups, it was just like they're gonna announce the starting lineup and let teams know, let the players and fans know rather who's gonna be starting the games earlier in the day. Um, it just seemed like something that just never made any sense to me as a strategist. Even though I was a little kid looking at this and it was just understood the starting lineup, like 4 hours ahead of time. But I'm like, that gives me 4 hours to study more so about what it is you're going to be doing, or rather, just the night before, even. I have an understanding. If for some reason I know what your starting lineup is every single night, it's easy for me to strategize against you. If you could have a different starting lineup or a different scheme or a different play style than you normally would, or multiple play styles that you could come out with different players attached to it each and every night. These are things that could be so very possibly scrambled up to mess up the other team's preparation process, which is a big part of what it is you're going to see out there. And I just always thought it made a lot of sense to explore that within the NBA scheme. Like, I get it. You want to, it's not, I don't want to get too ridiculously intelligent with what it is that you're trying to do, because at the end of the day, you want people to learn what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And in and of itself, the game is played a certain way, so it's only but so many options that you have. So I'm considering what I'm thinking probably requires much more than what it is that I understand within the game. But to just be unpredictable is what I'm trying to say. Be as unpredictable as humanly possible, so that when you have 10 and 11 man coaching staff scheming against you, they literally have 7 or 8 different things to choose from. And so, in the spirit of being as unpredictable as possible, I think LeBron James letting everyone know, or rather the Lakers listing him as doubtful, puts the Bulls at a disadvantage, not only for the game that we're in tomorrow, but the next game, since we see them once again, that they don't know which one of those games Bron may show up in. And that is what I'm trying to say in about a million different words. So I thank everybody for allowing me to do that. Obviously, I'm a talky, wordy kind of guy, but at the end of the day, let's stay unpredictable, Lakers. We want to put ourselves in the best possible position to beat these teams down the stretch of this season, so we can give ourselves security in these playoffs, man. I love the fact that we're firmly in the 8th spot, tied with Timberwolves, I believe it is. That is a wonderful thing, but unfortunately there's too many games left to think that that's where we're going to end up landing when it's all said and done. You see what I'm saying? So in my mind, the way I am, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to put a whole lot of stock in any given moment until these games are actually finished, more or less, until these games are already down to like maybe 2 or 3 games left and we really have some understanding where the seating is. We can't really be nestled comfortably in anywhere as long as we're part of this mix. And so what you want to do is try to rise above it. And I don't know how you do that other than to just win every game anyway. So that's kind of how I'm approaching it. You don't want to over apply pressure, but the intention is to win out. The intention is to absolutely win out. And that's not too difficult, because we legitimately have a team that is talented enough, looking at all of these matchups, to win out. I don't know that I'm not gonna say we're favored in all these games because we do have to see Karl Anthony Towns and the Timberwolves. We have to see KD and the Suns, and I just think at any given night you can be beat. Obviously this Chicago team is capable of putting up a million points as well. You got to respect Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, who are most definitely going to score over 40 at some point in time on these two games. One of them is. It's going to happen. So it's like you respect your opponent, but you respect yourself. You look at the Los Angeles Lakers, and I don't think that we're worse than any of these teams at all. Like, none of the teams that we have left, I think we're really worse than. And so when I say win out, I legitimately think that us staying healthy is what is really leans on, more or less. It's contingent on us being able to keep AD healthy and how soon D'Angelo can get back or what, and all of those different things. But if we can stay who we are, if this team can stay looking the way it's looking and playing the way it's playing, I'm excited about what we can do. The main thing that I've been worried about is Darvin Ham, and for the past two games, I've been pretty pleased with what we've seen. Although I think he's been kind of backed into some of these things, I think what he needed to see has given him the most recent data necessary to maybe revisit playing Lonnie Walker, or maybe even trying some of these combinations even further. What we're seeing going forward, I've thought for a while now that maybe reinserting Dennis Schroeder into the starting lineup would be good for this unit. Despite D'Angelo Russell being such a high cachet player, I legitimately think Dennis Schroeder is probably a better pace point guard for this roster right now, even though he has some deficiencies with some of his decision making down there that we need to discuss. But all in all, I'm not so sure. I really am not sure that we don't have the ability to just ignore the idea of a starting lineup and just put certain players in our system that will allow us to use ourselves in very, very, very unique ways. When I look at a guy like Vanderbilt, I can put him at the absolute shooting guard position. I can put him at the 2, and I know he's going to hold down his position as it pertains to the defensive end, because he can guard these guards probably better than he can guard in the interior. So he's a non-offensive player, just kind of switching off to Vanderbilt, of course. He's a non-offensive player in the sense that, yeah, he can catch lobs, but every time you throw him the ball, there's a good chance that it's going to just go off his hands. And we have to get this in our head. We got to drill this in our heads, because it really is something that continues to take place. And I know it isn't something that will get him removed from the floor. I don't want us to get him, get his minutes reduced or anything crazy like that. But I do want us to understand that running plays for him is like a roll of the dice. It can turn into a turnover bad and fast. And so I think that that's just something we need to really, really consider. That's why I wanted us to put Wenyen Gabriel next to Anthony Davis in the starting lineup and move Vanderbilt into a different position, maybe the 3 or maybe even 2 the second unit bench, because I do believe that Anthony Davis and Wenyen Gabriel give us a fantastic interior scoring presence, offensive rebounding presence that just cannot be matched. And when you consider who's going to be able to rebound Anthony Davis's misses, and I know that's going to sound strange because he's a very efficient player, but some of the shots that he takes, and we've surmised that they get, they bounce off the rim almost like 3-point shots. And so who do I expect is going to be in a position to rebound those balls best? Obviously, I like Dennis Schroeder in that situation. He's really good at that. Troy Brown seems to be in a good position to get those a lot of the time. But for me, I like Wenyen Gabriel down there because he's just an overall rebounder, overall offensive rebounder, and overall scoring rebounder. And so that's one of those things where it's like, I don't look at Vanderbilt as necessarily a scoring rebounder. He's going to get those boards, but maybe he scores, maybe the shot get missed, this kind of thing. Wenyen Gabriel tends to get the and one. He tends to have a touch around the rim that's going to make sure that ball goes in. And so these are things I just surmising as I watch him play. And so it's like, all right, Vanderbilt's fantastic around the perimeter, but is he as good in the paint? And do I want Anthony Davis to have that double down rim protector or an offensive rebounder presence in the paint while Bamba's out? Because this is one of the reasons why I wanted us to play Bamba in the starting lineup before he got hurt, is because I wanted that dynamic. And I respect that some, I was listening to guys' opinions, and there are some people who say, don't put redundancy in the starting lineup. Don't have it so that we have 2 and 3 of the same thing in the starting lineup. And I respect that thinking. That line of thinking holds a lot of merit. But I also think it's inverted in just the same, where you do want to kind of double down on certain things, particularly things that assist Anthony Davis, particularly things that help you with offensive rebounding, because a lot of times you're getting doubled down on in those ways. The other team, they got double rebounders. They got 4 and 5 guys that can double rebound, get offensive rebounds rather, and things of that nature. So for me, it's like, yeah, I don't want to do that in regards to shooting. Maybe I don't want to do that in regards to playmaking in theory, but I definitely want to do that in regards to how much length and offensive rebounding and 50-50 ball, players that I can put out on the floor. I think that really helps us a lot. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I just wanted to think of other opportunities to kind of provide more rotational options. That's one of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately, is that we've had a nice, 12 games with this roster now, so we kind of understand what we have and what we don't. I think the last thing that I want to see us do now, or rather is something that the last thing for us to figure out, is what Davon Reed can do for us. I just think it makes a lot of sense to know who this guy is before we go into the playoffs. If he's someone who's not going to be able to help us very much due to his skill set or what have you, that's something that the fans should know, man. Because what I don't want to have happen is for us to not use this player in the playoffs or something like that, use him in the play-in tournament or what have you, and then he ends up going to another team and I find out he could have guarded Ja Morant or could have guarded Kevin Durant or something. You understand what I'm saying? Because that is what his functionality is. And I've seen him get a stop against LeBron James. I've seen him get a stop against somebody else. So my thing is, that is a specialty piece. I know he was a throw-in to a trade that we didn't expect to make in regards to Thomas Bryant and his trade demand. I know that. But that does not mean that piece should not be explored. That's what I'm telling you. I'm not saying he can play. I'm not saying he can't. I just need to know. That's all I just need to know, y'all. And so that's one of my things about bringing talent in and not using them. And maybe those answers are already there. Maybe the scouts have determined this is right. But I'm a different kind of mind. I want to see it for myself. If they think it's not right, I'll tell you, how about the trait that doesn't practice well but does in real life play well? How about that trait? Because I've seen it before, maybe 3 times. How about that? The guy who in practice can't hit a shot, but when you call his number down the stretch goes crazy. Think of the Tebow trait. Can't throw the ball, but in the last 2 minutes of the game is the most clutch player in the game. Like, that kind of stuff is possible. So for me, it's like, let me know who I have. Because with some of the possibilities of guys popping and turning into Hall of Famers and popping and turning into All-Stars and popping and turning into role players, there should be no reason we don't know if a guy can do something in our uniform on the big stage or on the road or what have you. Don't just assume a guy's style of play ain't going to translate to him being able to do big things. I'm going to mention a player, and he's not playing well right now, so we're kind of back around to square one. But he went through a phase where this was much, much more relevant than it probably is currently, and I hope he starts to play well again. But a guy by the name of Grant Williams. When Grant Williams was drafted, it was said that his skill set was trash. He was a back-to-the-basket player, could not shoot the three, had some passing intangibles, but for the most part, he wanted his back to the basket to do like little turnaround hook shots and stuff like that. Could play a little defense, it was said, rebound some, big body. If you look at what he was able to do in the finals, in the Eastern Conference Finals, it was Game 7 against the Milwaukee Bucks. I think dude hit like 8 threes, like 8 of them, and was one of the best defensive players throughout the playoffs. Now, I know he has had a bad season, but I think he's going to play well throughout the course of his career. So I think we will remember him more so for what it is I just referred to now than anything that you're looking at in 2023. With that being said, he was somebody that I would have discarded of if he was brought to my team and that was all I had heard of him. He would be treated like Davon Reed without ever being seen, because in that situation, that's just who he was. Until he got on the floor and showed everybody that wasn't who he was. And so that's my thing. It's like, I can see if a guy's severely undersized and you just don't want to try it, or if a guy just, is completely out of shape and so therefore you don't want to run him. That kind of stuff makes sense to me. But this is a guy that I don't know what he can do. He's perfectly healthy, and the little time I seen him do stuff, he didn't make no mistakes, And the time I seen highlights of him in another place, he was stopping great players. Not good ones, but some of the better ones. So, what can he do? That's what I'm saying to you, Laker Nation. Can we find out what this guy can do? That's all. Also, Max Christie, I don't want to keep doing this because it's the same content, but I do want to see Max on the floor. We like what he can do. Let's see. Rui Hachimura, his numbers have decreased. His time has decreased, but I like what I saw from him on the defensive end. I want him to continue to prove himself to be somebody who can do other things, and I do see him trying to do that. He made some passes in the last game. Unfortunately, it didn't turn into an assist, but he doesn't have a lot of opportunities to make passes, so I'm just looking for him to do it where he can. That's all I'm really saying, because I know his functionality is to look for his shot, and he's being told to look for his shot. So if for some reason he's watching BDL 44, hey, do what the coaches tell you to do. But I know what's going to make you the big bucks in this league. I know what the field is looking for you to do, and that's incorporate assists into your game. They want that. So these are things that I'm just like, yo, I know this. I know this like the back of my hand, man. Some of this stuff is very easy. As I tell a guy like Austin Reeves, make sure you get 7 assists every single night. No matter what you do, make sure them assists is attached to your name, because that is what the Lakers really deeply need you to do, is keep the assists high, because that's what Russell Westbrook was always going to do. That's what he was always going to do. If he wasn't going to do nothing else, he was going to get guys the ball. So that's what we need on this team. I told D'Angelo Russell the same thing, although he needs to be shooting more. But yeah, for Austin Reeves specifically, get those passes off. Yeah, man. So I'm loving the team, though. I am loving the team. Yesterday's win was very encouraging, not just from a winning standpoint and a matching intensity standpoint and a meeting the moment standpoint. Nah, not just that. From a Darvin Ham coaching, rotation, and decision-making standpoint, I've been waiting to be able to feel decent, at least decent about Darvin Ham, and I think I'm reaching the uphill place. And I even if we head back down, I hadn't had too many uphills, so I'm encouraged. I'm telling you, I'm encouraged. He's had 2 games where I've had very little to complain about. Very little. Yesterday, I think maybe it might have been a rotation in the third quarter that I thought could have been a little too small, that didn't have enough continuity, but I was happy who was on the floor because it was Lonnie Walker in a part of the situation. So I'm like, okay, Lonnie and Beasley, maybe I don't need them on the floor for too long. We didn't have much go well with the scoring. That was about the only thing I could really complain about. Other than that, I was happy. I want to see Max Christie on the floor. Hey, this is it. That's all. Other than that, I love what I saw. So if we're going to start having that be the case, oh, he starts tightening up. The roster's too good for him not to be making mistakes, Field. I'm sorry. I'm telling you right now. The Lakers roster is too good for most of y'all if he ain't going to be doing stuff that works against us. So tell you right now, if he ain't working against us, the Lakers can do a lot, man. A lot. I don't know who we don't match up with. You know, I have to look. Like I said, I'm more concerned about who we'll see in the Eastern Conference in the finals in terms of matchups, based on who's big, who's really, really, really impossible and imposing. It is Giannis and Joel. Those are the 2 guys that I honestly would love not to run into. I would love not to run into them because I don't want anything neutralizing Anthony Davis. I want Anthony Davis to be the imposing player on the floor at all times. And as long as we're not running into those 2 guys, he's going to be that. He's going to be that. And so that's what I know. Steph Curry in a different way. Smaller guy. I'm talking about imposing. Bigger. Zion's hurt. I don't think he's going to be back. But even if he were, I like AD over Zion in 2023 fresh off an injury. Definitely do. So it's like, these look different things like Jokic. AD is amazing. Jokic is amazing. I'd say Jokic is a better player. AD is his kryptonite. That's the guy he don't want to see. And the whole league know it. The whole league knows he don't want to see AD in no 7-game series. So that's just what it is. I'm not saying his team can't win the series. That's a different conversation. I'm saying he don't want to see that man 7 games. He don't. That's a matchup he can't win. He can beat all kinds of players. AD? Nah. AD is too good defensively. He's too smart. He's too smart defensively, too crafty. So all the little things that he loves to do, he makes things 3 times harder than anybody else can for Jokic. Nobody else reads Jokic like AD. So that's what it is. And Jokic, please forgive me, man. I know you're going to drop 1,000,000 points on us next time because of that. I understand that. I said 7 games. 7. Because I know his talent. I don't play with him. I know he can go crazy in response to that. But 7 of them? No, not against AD. No. And so that's the thing I'm looking at. I'm like, nah, I want to see Denver. Don't let me get the AC to see Denver. I'm feeling good about that. So it's like, okay. And I look at Phoenix. Listen, I don't know what they look like with KD, man. I think they're as good as anybody if KD's out there with Booker. I don't know what the heck is better than that. I really don't. But continuity, bench, who are they leaning on? Is he going to stay healthy in all them games? Are they going to play all the games in the series? I just don't think you can count on KD's health right now, conditioning right now. It just doesn't make no sense to think that he's going to be able to run through the playoffs right now. It just don't. Terrence Ross and those guys, God bless them, ain't good enough. It's not. So there's a lot of people who think Phoenix can win the championship, including me, if it all comes together and he looks like KD, along with Booker staying healthy and CP3 getting them the ball, doing the things he does, hitting open shots. They can be ridiculously great. They could be undefeated in the playoffs. That's how great they could potentially be offensively in my mind. But defensively? Nah. Nah. They can't stop people, man. The Phoenix Suns are going to have a very difficult time stopping people. They're going to have a very difficult time keeping leads when people sit down. And that's what I think is going to be the vein of them. Now, if guys step up and play greater than themselves, then anything can change. A guy like Josh Okogie turned into a superstar overnight, hey, that could happen. As good as he can play on the defensive end and hit some shots, you never know. But that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take. So I don't believe in Phoenix. I'm not saying I want to see them in the first round or something like that. But I'm telling you, as far as them getting their goal, the championship, probably not this year. Probably not this year. That's the best way I know how to say it. Let's see, who else out there? Clippers, Paul George, with that injury, I just think he took their whole season away with that injury, y'all. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Maybe they make the play-in tournament, but I just don't think they can do much without him. Again, defensive end. Can't do nothing. They're not going to be able to do that. But they do have some nice players that can go crazy. Just, See, Memphis is the team I'm looking at right now. That's the team that I'm legitimately thinking that, and maybe I've already had this conversation with you guys last night, but Memphis is the team that I think, even though they've lost Brandon Clark, they still got some players there that make me concerned about how you're going to have to match up with them in a 7-game series. And so that's a team, and then Sacramento. My faith in Sacramento is that we're to be continued with the Sacramento Kings. How do you say that? Is it, I'm not really certain if what I see in them is them coming down from a peak at the wrong time. But it seems like they've plateaued. And if they are plateauing, then they might be lightweight average in the playoffs in the first round. And if that's the case, depending on who they run into, that could be a bad thing for the Kings. But I will say this, all Kings fans can really, really calm and be at peace with this understanding. You're deeper than everyone. So you can withstand injury better than any team in the league, in my opinion. Particularly with your front court. You're always going to be able to put a center on the floor and rebound the ball. You're always going to be able to put a big man on the floor who can stretch the floor. And so these are the things that I know about the Kings. So it's like, when it really comes down to strategizing this against them, I'm curious to see how that actually goes. Because I don't know if they're going to be able to use the variety of players that they are able to use in the regular season. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that in the playoffs. So they're going to, if they're able to, fine. But if they're not, and they are forced to condense their roster to certain players, depending on who they choose will determine how well they do. Because they just have too many players. And a lot of them can really, really go. But it's like, for them, they're always able to have them interchangeable. They're always switching them out. So in the playoffs, if you can't do that, it takes away that dynamic, and then they're exposed. And not to say exposed as in they just suck or nothing. No, it becomes, okay, it's leaning on the stars that are there to make up without having the backups that can do all that they need to do to make them look as good as they do. It's on them. It's on Fox, Monk, Sabonis, you know what I'm saying? Whoever they use, and then the bench is just that. Whoever that bench is. So that, for the rest of the league, is normal. For the Kings, if you watch them closely, nah. You see them, you got Okpala playing some days, Alex Lynn, and then look, next week they're not even on the team. You got totally different people. They got, what's his name, Dellavedova over here now. Sometimes you see Terrence Davis. Sometimes Terrence Davis ain't nowhere to be found. And you look up and they got Kata over here. It's like, how the hell did Kata? Wait a minute, he wasn't on the team last week. Now he's on the team. Yes, he is. It's like, wait a minute, that's what they do. That's exactly what the Kings do. Is Rashawn Holmes on the team? Sometimes he's hurt forever, but sometimes he's not, and he comes out and gets like 7 offensive rebounds. And it's like they keep switching these dudes out left and right, and nobody really notices but BDF 44. And I'm just like, yo, that's dope. Everybody should do that. And so that's why I think they could do well in the playoffs if they're able to continue to do that. So that's what I have to say. I think the Kings, to be continued. If they're plateauing, that could be a thing. That could be a thing. But at the end of the day, De'Aaron Fox is a heck of a closer, man. He is a clutch player. And I wonder if he starts to develop his legend right now. That's what I'm wondering about De'Aaron Fox. It's like, it's up to him. It's up to him. This is his canvas. The Sacramento Kings, with all due respect to the Rochester Royals, who've won the championship, and the Cowbell Ringers of 2001, they don't have no history. Like, they don't have that great moment. And now he can make it happen. At the end of the day, he can make it happen. So his mid-range ability, his defensive ability, his athleticism, overall speed, defensive, he can play. Guys that they have on that team can play, y'all. So I know we're used to the Kings not being very good. Excuse me, but Keegan Murray's talent level is crazy. So he's going to win them some games by himself as he continues to get better and better and better and better. I'm telling y'all, Keegan Murray's one of the best three-point shooters on the planet. So him right there on both ends of the floor. Harrison Barnes, NBA champion. All these different guys, man. I'm a believer in the Kings. Sabonis and his legendary season he's having and nobody realizes he's having. I mean, it's just a lot going on, man. Over there with the beam and that motivation that comes with that beam. And I know that they are a trailblazer in crypto and a lot of different things that the Kings have been working on for a long time. So I'm not surprised to see their success translate to the court because they've been doing stuff the right way off the court for a little bit. And so, all in all, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if we have to shift our thinking in regards to the Kings from here on out. If they're never going to be a bad organization again. That ain't going to, you know what I mean? Like, this could be that. This could very well be that. So, that's what I'm saying about the Kings. Basically, forget what you know about them. This is day one. And, yeah, that's what I think. They're not like Denver in my mind. I don't think Denver going nowhere. The Kings, I don't want to see them. I'm cool. So, that's my thinking. The Eastern Conference, man, I want to give y'all more respect, man. I don't find myself watching them, as y'all know if you follow me, but the teams over there, I don't know. When I say I don't know, it's because I don't watch them as much, but it's just a lot of it is because they've been constructed the same way for so long. These are really old teams. Not old as it pertains to their age, but old as it pertains to continuity. They've proven that they can't get it done or can get it done in Giannis's case. But these cores, can I be honest with you? I don't believe in these cores over there in the Eastern Conference, y'all. There is a lot to be said for just guys being together and it proving to just not work over time. The Boston Celtics, last year they got to the NBA Finals. I think that was as good as it gets. They're a good team, but they're not that anymore. So that's how I look at them. Milwaukee, if you guys are following me on that team, I don't really like their bench like that. Now, I do want to say that jumping Joe Ingles is starting to come into form, and if he starts getting back to his normal self, he can really add something major to this team in the playoffs. So I'm a big Joe Ingles fan, and I would not want to be on the wrong side of him in a playoff series. We know how that goes. Ask Paul George, get healthy soon, sir. So that's one of those situations, well, where Milwaukee can start to grow on me if their bench continues to play the way it is. Javon Carter is the real deal. I know people in the East know that by now. He's good, man. Javon Carter's good. Somebody got to pay him, y'all. If Milwaukee don't up and pay this man, he's gonna be up and gone. I'm telling you right now. So that's just something that needs to be said. Javon Carter is a different person. He's just turned into something good over there, and I want that to be understood on this channel. So anyway, him and those players, they're as good as they are. Their team is as good as they are, but I just don't know if the further back behind the bench is what it needs to be. But hey, Milwaukee has proven that they have already done it. That is a core that has done it. So if anybody has a chance to take it, in fact, I would say they're the favorites right now. They're probably the NBA champion favorites as of today. But that don't mean I'm overly enthused with who they have on their bench. Not overly. That's what I'm trying to say. Big fan of Bobby Portis, though. So, yeah, that team there, New York. You guys know I think Jalen Brunson is a lot better than the field thinks Jalen Brunson is. Honestly, I think Jalen Brunson is ridiculous. I think he's going to be one of the greatest players out there because of how he scores and how difficult it is to try to stop him. With that being said, he's already been to a conference finals. So, him leading the Knicks could be a thing. Salute to Julius Randle, but y'all know how I feel about Julius. I know that you can trust him sometimes. I'm just being real. Y'all know I don't lie. Julius is awesome. Sometimes. And then other times, like Juju, it's like that. And I think it's going to be like that for a little while, man. But that's just what it is, man. He's a fantastic athlete. Knows the game. Special touch around the rim. Special touch shooting the ball. He's got gifts. But sometimes he has some Westbrook in him. That's what it is. He has some Westbrook in him. And that's all there is to it. So, that's what I got to say about the Knicks. I think they're a good team if they can stay healthy. Quentin Grimes, quickly, all them dudes are really, really good. They can define, just like I said about De'Aaron Fox, they can define who they are. They can define who they are. If they're who they are and they decide to be winners, that's who they are. Grimes, quickly, Toppin, all the guys, all of the young guys on the team, they're actually going to define it. Because what I'm telling you is most of these cores have proven they're not winners. With respect to them, they just ain't. So if some of these other guys who are new step up and make that team their own and prove they are winners, and that just will be what they are, and we'll see them as such. I've watched a lot of basketball over the years, so I remember Detroit Pistons team. That's exactly how they came out. And they made one trade to get Rasheed Wallace, added it to a bunch of guys that you were like, oh, they're really good. And all of a sudden they were champs. You know, from being like really, it's almost like Sacramento. Like getting Sacramento, get like a dope player, and all of a sudden they go on to win a championship. This is that kind of thing. So, who knows? Who knows if this is what you're seeing in New York? Now that they've went and got some players, now that, you know, they've added Josh Hart to the situation. I like the acquisition, so maybe they define themselves as better than the Celtics when they see them in the playoffs. I don't know, but I'm not going to rule it out. The roster's good, especially if Robinson's healthy. You know, so that's something that I'm looking at. Who else, man? Chicago Bulls. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. I know they're a struggling team. They're probably in the back of the playoffs and all that. You know, it's hard to say about the East because I just look at them and say, if you run to Giannis, you're out of here. That's why it's not as fun for me to talk about the East. Because a team like Chicago, I don't think they have a chance if he's healthy. I don't know if they have a chance if he ain't, to be honest with you. But if he's healthy, nah, man. Nah. He out of here. You'd be lucky to get a game out of him. So trying to assess those teams is tough. Do I think there's a chance someone upsets Philadelphia in the first round? Not if they're healthy. You ain't stopping Joel in the first round this year. Not with him in this form. No, that ain't happening. So one of those teams like Chicago or Miami or Atlanta, you're out of here. It just is what it is. You might be able to get a game or two, but nobody's going to see you in the second round within reason, unless y'all do something spectacular, absolutely spectacular. So, and you look at the Brooklyn Nets, like they're almost miscellaneous. It's like, yeah, they're playing well, but can they really? No, we know they can't. Everybody knows they can't. So it's just one of those